My story is a story I never thought I'd tell anyone. It happens in 1974, and the important thing about 1974 is that Neil was 15, and in August of 1974 he was picked up by a man called John in the toilets at Waterloo Station. John was working that day, and so we couldn't have sex, but he gave me his phone number and invited me back to his house. I didn't really know what that meant because I'd had lots of sex, but never in a house. I decided to phone John because it's 1974. Many of you are too young to know about this. That meant that I had to get on my bike, cycle across town so that no one who knew my parents would say, "We saw Neil in the phone box at the end of your road," but to go to the phone box which was furthest away from where we lived, hide my bike in a patch of long grass and press my coin into a hot little slot. And then, it's easy, he's telling me. If the trains from where you live all go through to Waterloo, he's saying, then all you have to do is change at Clapham Junction. Look up on the boards, he says, look up and find a train to Twickenham. And then, once you're safely on board, just sit tight and count 6 stops. Get off, cross the road. I'll be there in my car. And he's right. It is easy to start with. Walking towards him across the road outside the station is fine, but then when I climb into the car, the strap on the seatbelt is hot, like skin, and also I can feel John looking at me. I need to get something in between his face and mine, and so I stare straight out through the windscreen and start talking about school, about the train, and all the time I can see the sunshine outside. It's putting hard white edges around things and insisting that this is all actually happening. I can remember shifting in my seat to try and hide myself. I can remember my shirt sticking to my back. We turn left. There's a curve in the road lined with houses, and then there's a dual carriageway. There are some bright dusty trees close by the road, traffic lights, and now we're turning left again because the light's gone green, and then suddenly there's a plane so close overhead that it seems to fill the whole of the windscreen. I duck, but John laughs. He tells me that his house here in Twickenham is right under the Heathrow flight path. Sometimes, he says, there are great queues of the things, whole rows of planes hanging up above his house like giant birds, but you get used to the noise. Then we turn left and right, and John says this is just round the back of where he lives, and before I'm quite ready, the car is parked. First, we're ducking under some kind of wooden arch or pergola, and then we're going onto a lawn that's dotted with young trees, and there's a neighbour doing watering with a hose. Because of the sunlight, the water turns into a spray of something else. Diamonds, I think they are. And this neighbour is waving, and he says, "Hello." But John doesn't miss a step. He waves right back as if all of this sunshine and me, 15-year-old me, walking just 2 paces behind him, is all absolutely ordinary. And I suppose I must have been looking down at my feet when he did that, because I'm noticing right now that the path across John's front lawn is made up of exactly the same sort of concrete slabs that we have in our front garden path at home, which also seems impossible. We turn left. There are shrubs and flowers, hydrangeas, geraniums, and now I must be looking up again because I can see that John's front door is painted black. John unlocks the door and then he stands aside. There's a step you have to take, he says, and it's right. He's right. There's a sort of step. You have to step up and over something to get inside John's house, a sort of raised threshold. And I can see this, but my feet won't move, except that now John is saying, you go first, and I'm saying, thank you. Inside, everything is dark. It's a bit too dark after all that dazzle and the sparkling water falling over that neighbour's flowers, and I can't quite make things out. I can see a dining table with too many chairs and also some sort of a big wooden chest or cabinet, something very large and locked looking, but I don't ask. I don't ask for any explanations, and then the noise of John putting down the car keys makes me come right back to myself. He goes first up the stairs. On the landing, there's the bathroom. John points that out in case I need it, I suppose. And then there's his spare room, the one we never went in. And then here at the end of the landing is the door to John's bedroom. Everything is white. White walls, white wardrobe doors, and there's a mirror that seems to have me already trapped inside it. Everything is a bit too close for comfort now we're in here, and it feels like our two bodies fill up the room entirely. There are some thin white curtains across the window by the bed, I notice, and they're moving very, very slowly. I can see fingers undoing buttons, but I'm not sure if this is John undoing me or me undoing him. Now, according to the mirror, we're taking off our trousers, and at this point I have to stop and turn away because John is bending over and taking off everything, and that is something else that I've never ever seen before. I can feel a burning on my face and a spasm somewhere in my throat, and now I can feel the bedsheet. It's very cool and it's smooth and it's underneath my knees. The curtains are right next to me now. They're easily within reach should I want to stretch out a hand and stroke them. And I can see now that they're so close that they have shadows moving through them in waves. That's because the window itself has been left ajar, and their air that's coming in from outside feels sort of warm and cool both at the same time. John starts to touch me. On my foot, first of all, because now I'm lying on my back and John is standing at the bottom of the bed and he's looking at all of me, up and down. And I do try and look back at him. I really do try to do that, but I can't because of the burning on my face and because of what's happening in my throat. And so I turn my head and I watch those shadows moving through the curtains instead. They're moving very slowly, and the air that is touching them is touching me all over, I realize. And now finally, I do look up at John, and the first thing he does is smile. The first part of our love-making, I remember, happened in complete silence, but later on, I think after about 40 minutes, I can hear my 15-year-old self starting to make a lot of noise. I make sounds that I don't think I've ever made before, and they bewilder me. They arrive in the room without my even being sure that it's my throat that's making them, and I think I probably flounder a bit at this point and maybe even call out for help. When this happens, John doesn't stop. He's using his mouth on me now, and he's doing it better than anybody ever has before. Somewhere low down inside me, I am beginning to feel sensations that are too large to stay put. I can feel them getting impatient. They need to be acknowledged somehow. And as my back starts to arch, I realise these feelings or sounds of mine must be rather like those planes that John says are always lining up over his house, except these planes aren't high, they're deep. I start to pant, and then, I suppose, I start to sing. John still doesn't stop doing what he's doing, but with his spare hand, he does reach up and lightly brush 2 fingers across my opening mouth. Those fingers slip inside me, and he hooks them against my lower teeth, and I understand. John is reminding me that the bedroom window is still open, and that the water may still be turning into a spray of diamonds above the flowers just across the way. But he isn't telling me to stop. He is telling me to keep going quietly. He is telling me I can signal to those waiting planes any time I want to and bring them in to land. He is telling me that nothing needs to stop me now, least of all myself. He is telling me that at last the sunshine and my throat and my voice are mine. Kneel, he says, not looking up from his work. Kneel. I come and just listen to the sounds that I'm making through John's fingers. Long, straying notes played pianissimo right up high on the neck of a double bass. They are wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.